What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sleep Atomic, and today we are reviewing Ahsoka, Part 5 Shadow Warrior. And we're first brought back to what had happened to Ahsoka last episode and her waking up to, I can only say, a near death experience now, with her hanging from a cliff and Balin striking her. I assume she fell unconscious, and then the waves washed her away some some distance, I'd say. But she's taken through the means of the Force to Anakin, and this kind of like a star room, like you would have like at a observatory, where they like project the stars and everything. It kind of looks like some of the levels on Jedi Survivor, if you had seen that. It kind of looks like there's like a hard light platform, only big enough for like one person to walk straight forward. And it's in a very nice, mostly light blue, almost white hue. And Anakin's in there by means of her reconstructing him, or the fact that the Force does that, usually by force of will. Sometimes I keep trying to relate the teachers and who inspires them for their motivation to, for who fuels their force, like the power of their force. If you say that and kind of think about like motivation to do anything else that's not in the Star Wars universe, and who propels your force, who's the wind beneath your wings, Anakin would definitely show up for Ahsoka. But it's very like just kind of like meta, I'd say, if you say it like that. But then the episode goes on further to what seems like a very straightforward saber lesson between Anakin and Ahsoka, even to where they just start like striking at each other, and then all of a sudden Anakin prompts a flashback to where she's a younger her, and it's the Clone Wars, and it shows her all the moments that made her and why she does the things she does and how she does it. And in this flashback, she's really against like doing stuff, and she's like more stricken by the fact that the clones are injured and dying, and there's so many losses, and she doesn't want to fight. And then eventually, Anakin's like, "Well, you gotta, or you're not gonna make it." Like literally. And then that's when Anakin's memory kind of starts wavering, and it's trying to reconcile between her remembering him as Vader and him just being Anakin and normal. And I don't think she knows that he's burnt up so badly, but I'm sure she heard of what happened. Sorry, I accidentally just went into the visual of the Anakin and what's the difference of between them. But basically, it's between Anakin with and without the Vader getup and a helmet. And then it flashes to her fighting pretty fiercely against Mandalorians, and it's the Siege of Mandalore, and then Anakin comes up a little similar to her, but he's the outsider in this because he wasn't there. Kind of like fully embracing what he was saying before, but now it's kind of like, well, blah blah blah. It kind of makes it seem like you weren't here, so we parted ways, and it's not a mystery why she's like different now because she doesn't have anyone to depend on, and depending on her. At least that's so similar in skill and upbringing. The Mandalorians, obviously, the ones that she was fighting for, were depending on her, and she has some pretty nice moves and stuff. And that's pretty much the most of the episode. It feels like because it has you taken in so well and so much. After Ahsoka snaps out of it, and after you snap out of it as the audience member, it just like zips to the end, and they're like going to find Sabine because now she's back to where she was in the sort of ethereal space of the Force, I imagine. And then Anakin aggressively confronts Ahsoka again, but this time he's got like a red lightsaber, and that goes for a little bit, for a few good swipes and strikes until Ahsoka turns the lightsaber Anakin has against him, and they're staring each other down with like the Sith eyes, kind of like shadowing certain things that they learned from that. And she basically says what Anakin's wanting to hear or has been wanting to say, with him kind of going rogue, but trying to help still, and then getting Amidala like pregnant and stuff. She says, "I want to live." It's not even like from when he's like, "Hey, well, now you gotta die. Like, you got no choice. Like, you're not gonna do what I want you to do." Kind of like you you gotta die. And this whole time, Anakin's been letting her know that he's very aware that she's like in the middle of like struggling for her life. Because later they find her like floating in the water, like underwater. But she says after the fight, says, "I want to live." Like the kind of way you're like, I want to live my life, I want to do this, but like we know Ahsoka now, and like what she's been doing is like how she wants to live her life, and it's like fulfilling for her, and how she wants to do that. And I guess it is full of emotions, unlike what the Jedi's were kind of going for, and like what her first flashback was going after. She kind of like learns it through Anakin's actions, and maybe he was struggling with it, maybe he wasn't, but she really wasn't there to experience it. You just saw like these two very different things that stuck out to her. Cause like in the second one, he's like, "Oh, what's happening here?" He's kind of like not very knowledgeable about everything, and it's like pretty much the same thing. It's just a battle. Like it's just like it should have been like the same answer from him before. It's like fight to live, but obviously he didn't know the context, so he's like, "Oh, what's this?" Like, you're pretty good at that now, I guess. And this is kind of like the emotional part where she's kind of like seeing that he's feeling stuff out, kind of going off of people's emotions. Something the Jedi did not like like have teachings about really almost. And they didn't say they were against them, but they really had it like as the opposition when they explained the Sith. I'm sure there was something about it in like books or comics, but at least from the main stuff that Yoda would say. It's pretty much like a no. He's like, Anakin like wants that and pretty much uses it to get where he's going. Seems like a pretty big thing. So he takes a moment to himself and resets. His Sith eyes go away again because of what he heard, and it kind of like confirms, at least the audience. I'm sure Ahsoka already knew that he kind of like depended on other people, and then kind of circumstance put him into being Vader, and now he had no other choice until like way later. And as he's saying, like, there's hope for you yet. Like, he knew neither of the paths that he said or did or saw were not very well laid out and weren't going to be helpful and go anywhere. But this is when Sedula's squad, unauthorized, uh, finishes their search party and scoops her out of the water. And she's just like, again, floating in the water, eyes closed, arms out. It's been quite some time because in between what was happening with her and Anakin, the top side of the New Republic and General Sedula and Jason and Chopper, not to forget Chopper, came planet side and started looking for her. They found like the halves of the star map, found the little runes, and then they found Hu Yang, and Hu Yang's like insisting on looking for her, and then Chopper does too. Then Jason stands over near the cliff's edge and starts hearing like the struggle somehow. I'm sure through the Force because they mentioned that this is Kanan's kid. He's pretty gifted, like, and everyone's like, oh, and you're supposed to remember Kanan Jarrus, the uh, master of Ezra, and he was doing that Force seeking thing to see after a while. I think I know at least another character did that as well, and then it seems Jason inherited the skill, and I guess he was like maybe like uh situationally like experiencing her force vision and her like maybe thoughts from her almost like not making it. It's a pretty big episode for him, and then appearance wise for Chopper because he's pretty got like a retro thing going on. He's got like a tire pretty much for his like middle wheel that comes out, and he's missing some panels, and his head like turns from side to side, but not like horizontally, like vertically, like tilts left and right. Like it would be your head would be on your neck. And if it weren't for those two, Chopper with the scan and uh, Jason with the just the clutch, it's like no, I hear something like, and then somehow Hera Syndulla hears it too, and she's like, "Oh no, like let's go for another sweep." Like they were about to leave, but unfortunately, after they get Ahsoka, Mon Mothma calls in to say that they pretty much have to spank her and then permanently ground her, and in the military, it kind of means that she wouldn't be in charge anymore. So there's a new Republic fleet coming in for reprimands and punishments all around for that. But right before they arrive, there was some brainstorming, and they start heading towards the space whales, which I'll get to in a minute, but are pretty cool looking for like made up animals. But the guy with the beard, Captain Teva, the one that's been talking this whole time and interacting with Sedula, is stalling the New Republic fleet from immediately getting in the way because they're going up to pretty much use some of the force powers from some of the old games that I'm sure there a lot of people never even knew about. Like the one I'm thinking about is the kind of like commune with animals, and Ahsoka tries to find the biggest space whale, which would assumably be the oldest one. I'm thinking, and she does a few because like she does the force echo. There's like a she's like, oh, there's like a memory imprinted on here. They're like going all out. It seems like Ahsoka seems pretty seasoned with it. Like, assumedly, Yoda only had like one, and it's like just to see far enough into the forest to like not be in so much trouble. And they kind of make it seem like you have to like specialize in one and be like the master level. But at this point, she uses the force echo thing and one for like telepathically communicating with animals, and then she gets the space whale to take her to the next galaxy. Not even like mentally show her where it's at, like Kylo Ren does in the movie. It's kind of like rummaging around, like looking for stuff in their heads. The whale spooner's like, yeah, I'll take you there. I don't even have to show you. Like these space whales are the front half is the whale, and you're looking at it from head on, and it's like, okay, whale, flying whale, crazy enough. And then you look on the back, and there's like these tentacles, and it's like a octopus tentacle, and they can go into hyperspace. Like there's like flail, like pretty much like open up the tentacles, like you open up your hand to like high five or whatever, and it starts glowing like a star on the back of there, like, and there's like just like a starship. They like Pinocchio it in with the fulcrum, like Hugh Yang and Ahsoka, and then the whales like leave the atmosphere and then are in space and then just shoot off, and there's like a good like 50 space whales like just launching off. It's like the main one's going somewhere, or maybe just one of us decided to pick somewhere to go, so we're going, and they all just like launch off. And it's the craziest thing ever. It's like you could see like the little teeth of the whale like opening slightly, and there's like this light coming through, like hitting the fulcrum. It's like, "Beep, and they're like gone." Ahsoka's like, "Hey, sorry, Syndulla. Like, we'll find Sabine. Like, sorry you can't come." I'm assuming even if like they got another space whale do that, the ghost, Syndulla's ship wouldn't have fit anyway. It's like significantly bigger than Ahsoka's ship. I like the conversation between the General Captain Tiva, and the caption says Giard, Gerard, Gaillard, the the captain of the fleet that pops in. It takes him for a while because he's just like, please identify yourself. Please identify yourself. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, there's a mission here. Like, identify yourself. And he's kind of like trying to put up that wall of like You're not making it past here. Like, and then eventually he's like, we can't let you do that. Like, it's like, I'm gonna have you stripped of everything. And he's like, oh crap. Okay, like you're not gonna believe me. And then eventually, after the next scene, the whales come up. It's like, hey, like, just General Seduto's like, hey, you need to move. It's like, oh, evasive maneuvers. It's like, but everyone's like dazzled and amazed about the space whales. And it's cool because like they like scrub past the ships and like you can see these little like feeler things like kind of looks like they have like little artillery, not artillery, the little fin things that kind of like eels use to get around, where the little wrinkles are, like under the belly of the space whales. What I'm trying to say is there's a lot of detail, even though like I'm struggling to describe it for a fantasy animal that's with a sci-fi base. But the main thing is front whale and the back where there's the tail fin. It's octopus and it's still like colored like that. There's just like a few like more like fish embellishments from the more unusual fish like in the sea. There's no like catfish whiskers. I'm sure that would have been like a popular choice to put on there, but there's these little wavy fins, or I don't even know if they do anything, but they're like you could see them like pulsating and like waving around. They have the, I'm sure, very accurate whale teeth where it looks like just like a big row of like crusty yellow or white. That does it for this episode. Now that I'm done with my unusual amazement of the sci-fi animals, if there was a goal, it looks like find Ezra, find Thrawn, because Mon Mothma lays it out that like you didn't come up with anything. It was pretty much like with the results of the oncoming things, like it don't come back until like you have it. Like it kind of like makes it look like she like doesn't care, but it kind of leaves the window open for like I thought you were gonna get something, and oh well, you don't have that much time now. Like they're onto you. You're gonna get demoted, and like if not, just like kicked out. Trying to at least relay that to her. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm busy. I gotta go. Being pretty impartial still as the whole call goes through. Yeah, hopefully they get something to absolve Syndulla there. I don't know what Ahsoka was to the New Republic fleet, but the next one's called Far, Far Away. And that's all I had for you. This was Sleep Atomic, and I'm Alistair. No one's told you yet. You look good. And it shows.